Hello and welcome to another episode of the Calm Within the Storm podcast, where you'll be joining us on the journey of finding contentment within the chaos that is mental health.
Everything can change, even the world we live in.
This episode will be all about parenthood and the impact that becoming a parent has on your mental health. And my guest for today's episode is Elsie Marsden. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. So, Elsie is a mother of two.
Yes.
So before we delve into the answers from today's polls and questions and go into a deeper discussion, just give us a little bit of info about you and your partner's experience of going into parenthood and also through parenthood.
Okay.
How have you found it?
Yeah. How have I found it indeed? So I've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, which is challenging enough. I guess all I can say is that you're never prepared.
Mm-hmm.
When I had my son, the 5-year-old, he came very unexpectedly. So I think it's again different if you're not planning it.
Yes.
But it was joyful all the same. But yeah, there's just this unexpected... The only way I can describe it, I guess, is like lost feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And a pressure to have to know what you're doing. To be a mum.
Yeah.
Or to be a dad.
Yeah.
And I think it's harder for men as well. So going like with my partner, because women are the ones that carry the baby for 9 months. They're a mum as soon as they get pregnant. But a dad doesn't become a dad until the baby's born.
Yeah.
I think. So I think it's harder for men because they don't understand what their partner's sort of going through in those 9 months of pregnancy necessarily.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because they're not there with them.
Yeah.
I think another thing that they probably struggle with is a woman's hormones during those 9 months. And again, the women struggle as well.
Yeah.
That's something I don't think anyone is told about when having a baby is what your body will go through in those 9 months.
Yeah, and I guess every case is different as well, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Your age is a huge factor as well. And obviously genetics play a big part too. So I think, every experience is different. No one has the same experience. But actually, when the baby's arrived, it's so alien.
Yeah.
That's all I can describe. Like surreal. It feels surreal. You suddenly got this human that you need to like care for, and it has to survive. And you're the one that feeds it and looks after it. So but there's a lost feeling because you gradually lose yourself. Mm-hmm. But even through pregnancy, I think
it's a loss of independence in a way.
Yeah.
And you've gone from having all the time in the world to do what you want to suddenly you can't switch your brain off for a moment because someone really depends on you being alert 100%. Every moment of the day.
Yeah, it's freedom. It comes down to freedom, not having that freedom. Having to, like even now, having to, if we've got an event to go to or a wedding, or we have to rely on family members to step in so that we are able to still have a social life. Yeah. And I think that's something that you don't really think about.
Yeah.
Because you are so caught up in this, I'm going to have a baby bubble. And also, I think, for me, you don't think past the baby. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, your head kind of goes, oh, there'll be a teenager one day.
That's true. That's true.
But you don't think past... You prepare, you get the nappies, you get the you prepare for the baby, but you don't think past that stage necessarily. So there's a lot. It's overwhelming.
So when you had your second, in terms of thinking in the future, like you just said, as to when they're a toddler, when they're a teenager, have you found that part of the journey very different with your second child? Because obviously your first child is a little bit older by this point, so you kind of know what to expect, what's coming, and also how to build that child up to that age as well.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. My daughter's 2 next week, and her lifespan so far has gone so much faster than my son's did.
Yeah.
because you're learning on the job.
Yeah.
So with your first, you're kind of learning as you go, and every stage is different, every stage is new, and you're getting advice thrown at you from grandparents who did it years ago, so things were very different.
Yeah, and I think that's something else that a few people who've answered our polls, they've also mentioned similar things of don't listen necessarily to what other people have to say, because everyone is different and
100%.
every experience is different, and everyone can suddenly be an expert and tell you how to manage your child and manage your pregnancy or whatever, but you aren't them. No. And they aren't you.
No, but even down to like midwives, I think there's different, you know, like with my son, I had 2 different midwives, and one of them was very, very strict.
Really?
Yeah, she was very like, you must do this and this is the proper way, and one of them was like, it's your baby, it's your way, you know, and it was like, especially as a first time mum, you're kind of like, well, what's best, what's right?
Yeah.
So it's difficult, I think.
Yeah.
Listening to all different angles of it and trying to piece together what your journey is going to be.
Yeah. And because I think before you have a baby, in your head you think, okay, I have mother and baby classes and I have pregnancy classes, like you see in the movies, don't you? Like you all go to these group sessions and that's what you imagine. And it's only so my cousin is pregnant at the moment and we've been quite close in talking about the whole journey. And it's only from listening to her experience that I'm learning there's no classes, there's no one telling you what to do. It's literally, I'm pregnant and that's it. And it's quite, I was really shocked.
Yeah, but even like down to the birth, like you going back to movies, you know, in movies and TV shows, the way that they give birth is not how it is in real life at all. So even from that perspective, you're given a different outlook on what it is going to be.
Yeah.
Watching films growing up, you're like, oh, having a baby's easy. Yeah. Oh, it's fine. Anyone can do it. And it is. It's not, I always say it's not hard work, it's constant.
Yes.
It's not hard work, it's joyful, it's lovely. It's just never ending.
Yeah.
You know, like your partner can go out to work, they come home, they're switching their brain off from that day. But if you're a stay-at-home mum, your day doesn't end until well, even when they've gone to sleep, it doesn't end because you still got an ear out for them. And
it's interesting, and it's not just the pregnancy and then having the baby itself being a massive thing, but also just the impact that it has on your mental health as well. And so leading into that, I put a few polls out to our audience, and I wanted to get a better understanding of people's overall journey from how they were before having a baby to finding out they're pregnant or having the child. Yeah. And how that looked in terms of the impact that it had on their mental health. So the first question that I asked was, how would you describe the stability of your mental health prior to becoming a parent? And the options were very stable, fairly unstable, and very unstable. 17% said they were very stable. Okay. 50% said fairly stable. Okay. 33% said fairly unstable. Oh, okay. And 0% said very unstable. So I suppose that's quite reassuring in a way that people are kind of making sure they're in a right place before having... And obviously that can't be the case for everybody because if something's unplanned or whatever. But for the people who've participated today, it's nice, I think, to see that the higher percentages fall in that people are a little bit more...
They're okay.
Yeah. And they're assured with how they're feeling, or maybe they've got a better understanding of how to deal with how they're feeling. Yeah. And then I asked, how has having children affected your mental health, if at all? Okay. So the options were, I've become more stable. Okay. I've become less stable / have developed new difficulties. I feel unaffected. And too soon to say / I've not paid enough attention, because that's easily done, I'm sure. Oh, yeah. So, 0% said I've become more stable. Yeah. And 0% also said it's too soon to say, or I've not paid enough attention.
Okay.
So people are very clear as to how this has panned out for them.
Yeah.
17% said I feel unaffected.
Okay.
But 83% said I've become less stable or have developed new difficulties.
Yeah, that's not unexpected.
Really?
Yeah, from my point of view, that's not unexpected.
Yeah, see, because I don't have kids.
No.
So for me, I think I expected, well, both of those polls to be more evenly balanced, I think. And I was really quite shocked. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I guess when you really break that down and you think about it, there's so many factors that go into that as to why, because you've not only got the anxieties of worrying about your child, protecting your child, making sure they're okay, but you've also then got a personal impact of your body has changed and that kind of thing, and the lack of confidence, you know, if you don't look the same as you did before.
100%. There's that pressure in the media, in society, to bounce back.
Yes.
Yeah, there's that pressure. And especially, I think, like, going back to maybe when, like, my nan was a mum, there wasn't the social media, it wasn't all, your life wasn't put on display the same as it is now. So I don't think there would have maybe been a personal feeling about, oh, I'm looking in the mirror and I don't recognise who I am anymore, because I've been through that. But there's also that, in this day and age, the social side of things, that pressure on social media. Your life is out there. You want people to be like, oh, she's fine, she's getting on with it, she's bounced back, she looks great.
Yeah.
And it's hard because you've got that going on and your own personal battle.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I imagine it's a very big thing, and it's in terms of stability, so much has changed in that department as well, where you could have been fairly stable before. Suddenly you've got no sleep, your diet has changed, you've got a routine that is no longer, you know, ordered and structured. It is all over the place and chaotic.
Yeah. Well, everyone knows, even if you go on a night out and you don't get in till late at night, the next day your day is you're lagging. I guess you're like behind, you're groggy. So picture that, you know, for those first 6 months, especially with your newborn, every day, you know, it gets easier, of course, but every single day you can't function properly if you can't sleep properly. And there's nothing more frustrating. I always used to say that if I was to do an all-nighter, I'd probably feel more awake than if I was to fall asleep for an hour. Oh, I'm being woken again, fall asleep again for 20 minutes. It's that interrupted sleep, because you're constantly dipping in and out of that. Just as you're falling into the deep sleep that we need, you're being pulled out of it again. Yeah. So to then try and obviously, I mean, I've got my second one. I then had to look after my eldest. Yeah. So if you've got a newborn, you can kind of nap with them during the day. You know, you can get as much sleep as you can. But when you've got an older child as well, for me, a big thing was guilt. Yeah. When my youngest came along, it was like, well, I don't have the time that I used to have to spend with you. Yeah. So then you're clutching at straws, because when your baby's napping, or you would be like, okay, well, I'm not going to sleep. I'm going to spend time with my eldest and give them some time and attention. But then you're lagging even more. Yeah. It's like a constant battle, endless cycle.
Yeah. I imagine.
It's juggling. I think that's what it is. It's trying to juggle everything and feeling like the whole world is on your shoulders. Yeah. Because I think as well, as women, we are naturally the doers of the family. Yes. So I'm not saying that there are partners out there that don't, but like for us, I'm the one that's remembering parents' evening, remembering what day is PE. You know, my partner doesn't really have to worry about those things because he's out at work all day. Yeah. So I think there's already, you feel these pressures differently to them, and then add a new baby into the mix and it's chaotic.
Yeah, absolutely. But speaking of men and fathers, I actually found some interesting statistics, because when you think of pregnancy and having a baby, a lot of the time your mind just jumps straight to the mother. Yeah, of course. And the mother's journey through it. But actually I found some interesting facts online. that 38% of first-time fathers are concerned about their mental health.
Wow. Okay.
38%, that's quite a lot.
Yeah.
And 10% of all new fathers worldwide experience postnatal depression.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Isn't that interesting?
That's
Because
very
that is
interesting.
something, again, that you think of just being a woman thing because of the hormones
Yeah.
and the impact that birth has
Yeah.
and just the attachment to the baby. There's a whole load of reasons for postnatal depression, but you don't necessarily
Link
jump
it to the father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Link-
100%. Yeah, that is interesting.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess they feel, maybe for a lot of men, I know my partner definitely struggled because I breastfed.
Okay.
So I think, again, your baby's born and you're helpless as a man. If your partner is solely breastfeeding, you know, I mean, I was able to express and we got my daughter on a bottle quite early so she could get used to him feeding it that way, but not everybody's able to do that. So I think that's probably a factor, is that they don't feel, they feel helpless.
Yeah.
They feel like there's nothing that they, when the baby cries, they need their mum because they want feeding, they want that comfort.
Yeah.
And I think as well, obviously, as the mother, you've carried that baby. That baby's used to your heartbeat.
Yeah.
That baby's used to you. So when they need comforting, it is you they need.
Yeah.
Because that's who they've heard. That's who they've been close to for the past 9. They've been connected to
Yeah,
you.
no, that's interesting.
So I think a dad doesn't have, I mean, obviously when the baby's born, he has that instinct. That's, you know, I've got to keep this baby alive. I love this baby. You know, they have that instinct for it, but they haven't got that same connection that a mother has. And I think that's probably where that, in my opinion, that's probably where that comes from.
It could very well be. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay, so some more facts for you. According to NHS England, around 1 in 4 women experience a perinatal mental health problem during pregnancy or within the early postnatal years. 1 in 4.
Okay.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. That is a lot.
That is a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
Considering that you don't get training or support prior to having the baby based on, you know, that this is a 1 in 4.
Yeah, that's a big, yeah.
It's
a big statistic.
It is. And then specifically, postnatal depression affects more than 1 in every 10 women within a year of giving birth. But it can also affect fathers and partners as well. But more than 1 in every 10 women has postnatal depression. It's just, there's just so much about it where you just think, why is there not more support? You know, if 1 in 4 women are struggling in general, and then 1 in 10 are diagnosed with postnatal depression, surely you think there should be, I don't know, just, you've got a midwife to help you with the physical symptoms. Why don't you have a mental health support, even if it's just a phone call every couple of weeks or something like that to check in with you?
Yeah, I mean, you're just kind of expected to get on with it. It baffled me with my second how quickly they kind of let you go home.
Yeah.
I think with my first, there was a lot more, whether it was because it was my second and not my first, I'm not sure, but I think we were home within 3 hours of me giving birth.
Really?
Yeah, and obviously it was okay. I kind of knew what I was doing because I'd had my first, but yeah, they allow you, they want you to go, don't they? They don't want you to take up room in the hospital.
3 hours though.
Yeah, that's it, and they're kind of like, okay, you know, watch this video. They made us watch a video on like how to put your baby in a cot, and she put this video on this little tiny laptop, left the room, came back in. Have you watched the video? Yeah, okay, pack up, you can go home.
Oh my gosh, like that's enough.
That was what it was. Yeah, I mean, but you know, it's hard because obviously we know that the NHS is struggling and everything. So, you know, there's no judgment there. But this, going back to your point of where's the support? There's already no support. Once it's out, they're kind of like, okay, off you go.
Yeah.
And out you walk with this baby in a car seat. And I'm like, what do I do now? But then you do get a health visitor.
Yeah.
And I think they they come like a week after you've had the baby.
Okay.
And they do, or might even just be a couple of days, I can't remember, baby brain around the time. But they like weigh the baby, they check everything's okay. They check that if you are breastfeeding, they'll check that the baby's, you know, actually taking in milk and being fed properly. So there is support there, but I think they do, like, in the first couple of weeks they're very there, and then they discharge you, and then you have a 1 year check and then a 2 year check.
Right.
But it's just for your baby then, not for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's nothing really. I mean, obviously you could reach out, but you probably get put on a waiting list or...
Exactly. And this is something that we talked about in one of the previous episodes about the difficulties with waiting lists.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, I'm very lucky. I have quite a big family who all rally round, and I can remember at one point I was just like, oh my gosh, I've not had any sleep. I was so tired. And my mum was like, I'll come and sit with the baby, you go and get a nap. And like, you know, I was so appreciative of that. But there are people out there who don't have that support.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think there needs to be something in place especially for those people.
Yeah.
Because you feel like burying your head in the sand some days. Just going like, I just need some space. Like, even to just go for a walk by yourself or... Yeah, it's a big impact.
I can imagine.
I'm making it sound like it's not joyful. It is.
Based on kind of what we've just talked about, I thought I would then ask what people found the most difficult out of the whole experience. So I asked, what part of parenthood have you found the most challenging? And this factored in pregnancy, post-birth, the whole scenario. Somebody wrote in to say protectiveness, worry, lack of confidence, fatigue. They a whole list. But protectiveness is a really interesting one because, again, it's maybe not the first thing that you think of when you think of having a baby, because you just think of the health of, you know, the mum and the baby, or looking after them, keep them alive, as you say. But you suddenly have this accountability and need to, you know, protect something, not just like physically, but also like you just need to look after things on a whole different level.
100%. Yeah.
And then your brain isn't switching off because what if they choke on something? What if they're not crying? Or you know? Yeah,
I mean, half of your sleepless night is because you've got one eye open on the baby.
Exactly.
Even when the baby's asleep, you're going, are they still breathing? Yeah, I still to this day sometimes, like, so my daughter's only just really started properly sleeping through in her own bed. She's been doing it for a while, but she'd get up and come through and get with me in the middle of the night. But the other morning, you know, usually she's awake by 6. The other morning it was 8:15 and she still hadn't woken up. And I went through and I just put my finger under her nose, you know, to check, to see her breath. I was like, I'm quite worried. This is it. So even now, there's that worry and that you need to protect this child and make sure that they're not going to roll over off the bed or... There's so much. Yeah.
It's a part of your brain that I guess you've not really needed to use before, you know?
No, exactly, because you're only thinking about yourself. Yeah, that's it. Suddenly there is somebody else that takes priority above you.
Yeah, well, if you're lucky enough to have parents still, you know, until the point where you have a baby, you are still the baby. Yeah. And you don't need to think about protectiveness because you're the one that's being protected.
Yeah,
and suddenly you become that figure and you just go, what do I do? I don't know.
That's it. Honestly, it's a guessing game most of the time.
Someone else has said, losing the support system that I had during pregnancy. They've almost all disappeared since having my son.
Yeah.
And I think that's really sad, because I think when you find out that you're pregnant, all of your friends and your family are really excited and they're thrilled for you. But then actually, once you have the baby and you find that you're stuck at home for a while whilst you're nursing and that kind of thing. Yeah. You don't have the time to keep up those relationships, but that shouldn't mean that those relationships should just die off, you know. And I think a lot of women and partners as well end up feeling isolated.
Yes.
For this reason.
That's a great word, isolated. Yeah. Because already you're living a different life to your friends. Yeah. Unless you're lucky enough to be going through it with someone. But yeah, there's definitely that you're already in a different space to them in your journey. you know, they might be focusing on their careers and they still have a social life, and you're sat at home and you don't even have the time or the energy to pick up the phone and have a conversation.
Yeah.
Or to send a text. And it's definitely in those days where you need your friends the most, because I think as well, your family can all rally round, but it's kind of your friends that still make you feel like you.
Yeah.
It's the friends that remind you, you know, when you're all together and you're having a laugh, or you've got those little in-jokes and things, and it kind of sparks memories, and it reminds you that, oh, I am still this person.
Yeah.
And yet they're not always there. I mean, I was lucky enough that I didn't really lose many friends, but I know people who have definitely experienced losing people because of having a baby and being in that different timeline to somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. A few people that wrote in mentioned exactly that.
It's hard. Exactly
that. Someone put loneliness, also getting to know a tiny person who you're now responsible for. Yeah, which is as we've just discussed. Someone else said, the sleep deprivation is so hard and intensifies everything that's already hard.
Yes. Yeah. It makes it worse because you become overwhelmed then.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not catching up.
Yeah.
And your brain is foggy and
you just get flustered, I guess, a lot easier.
Frustration. Yeah.
And
you kind of, without meaning to, you kind of become angry.
Yeah. I can imagine.
And you kind of become angry with your child that you've just had. Not in like a horrible, aggressive way, but you kind of are like, you're the one that's causing me to lose sleep.
Did you find a similar thing with your partner? Like, was your partner experiencing those, like, erratic emotions like you were, or
no.
Interesting.
I think that's another thing maybe women might feel as well, is that you suddenly, your partner starts to really grate on you. Because you'll be sat there, you know, I know from my experience, but then, you know, my partner, he was the one that was going out to work.
Yeah.
He was the one that had to be up, his alarm was going, he had to be up at a certain time, he had to go and face the day, you know, at work. So it was only right that he sort of got a good night's sleep so he could go out and do that. And then also when he came home, he was better for me and for the family, because he still had the energy to make the dinner, put my eldest to bed and all things like that.
Someone else has said, I had post-natal depression. I always had a really blinkered view of it, and that's coming from a pharmacy background. I had no idea that it could be diagnosed as postnatal depression up until a year after the baby is born, because it takes the hormones so long to level off again. Stupidly, I thought that all mums with postnatal depression were somehow triggered by their babies, which for me wasn't the case at all, as he was the only thing keeping me going.
Yeah. 100%. That you are kind of, you have this underlying frustration towards your baby, towards your partner, but then you're also, that baby is the only thing keeping you trudging through the mud because you're doing it for them.
Yeah.
Even though it's like a cycle. So
yeah.
They're causing your sleepless nights. They're causing all of this. But you're also absolutely in love with this baby and you do anything for that baby.
Yeah.
So, like you say, it's catch-22. You can't win.
And you've got all that confusion as well, because I think with all of the hormones, I mean, you just have to try a different contraceptive pill to know exactly how much it can impact your personality and how you go about your daily life, you know. And it's not until you come off of those hormones that you even notice that you have changed. And I guess postnatal depression is that, but way more intensified, because then you've also got the lack of sleep and everything that's just building that up. But not being able to recognise that it's your hormones and it's not you that's the problem. You know, it's just something as not quite resettled yet or restabilized.
Yeah.
And I think naturally your brain wants to pinpoint like a trigger of that or a cause of that, and you probably just instinctively think the baby or the partner or something, and you end up getting a bit blameful and a bit angry without even meaning to.
100%. You don't mean to at all. I mean, there's definitely been times where I've had to kind of apologise to my partner and I'm like, I'm so sorry, it's the hormones. I mean, even now, you know, every month we go through it, don't we, where we're like, I'm just overwhelmed. But obviously add a baby to that mix and it's crazy. And I don't think that enough people understand that.
Yeah.
I don't think partners understand it enough because they're not taught about that.
Yeah.
They're not, you know, we're at school, we talk about sex education, we're taught about periods, all of that, but we're not taught about how to handle our hormones or how overwhelming it will be. And then obviously having a baby, it's on top. And even like going down to breastfeeding. So even if you don't breastfeed, if you choose not to breastfeed, your body still has to, it's still prepared for a baby.
Yeah.
So that milk still naturally comes in.
Yeah.
Even if you're choosing not to get rid of it,
Yeah.
it'll still come in. So every single woman will deal with a crazy boost of hormones when that milk is coming in, which is like 2 days after the birth, I think. And yeah, I think that's what they call the baby blues or something. And you just get so overwhelmed with emotion and you just can't stop crying. I mean, in my experience anyway, I could not stop crying. I was just like, I don't even know why I'm crying.
Yeah.
Even you just look at your baby and cry. I just love him, you know. It's crazy. But yeah, I learned with my second, I didn't know with my first, but I learned with my second that there's like when you actually breastfeed, you release endorphins, which is obviously a happy hormone. And so I think that's kind of maybe nature's way of why you're supposed to breastfeed. Not supposed to, but it's seen that that's the best route for you and your baby. But a lot of it is overlooked, I think, on that side of things. I think it's kind of out there is if you breastfeed your baby, you're giving your baby nutrients, you're giving your baby the best start in life, all of that. But no one knows that actually you're helping yourself as well.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be releasing happy endorphins, like you're releasing a happy hormone.
Yeah.
Which then you come away feeling, I fed my baby, I've done a good thing, and you feel like you're accomplishing your goal as a mom.
Yeah. Yeah, and I suppose as well from a partner's perspective, that must be really confusing as well because, and I don't mean this in like a discriminatory way, but men's hormones are nothing like women's hormones.
No.
And they are far more stable, I suppose. And so if your body is, you know, giving you different emotions from within, you know, it's not even like external things that are triggering things. Is it your body, like breastfeeding is triggering a new hormone or whatever? That must be a very complicated thing as well for your partner to have to deal with because they don't understand that, you know, you've got switches going off all in your brain doing all of these things and they don't have that.
You're a psycho. You're a psycho with a baby. No, definitely. Again, I don't think they're not taught it. And especially, you know, it's like a taboo subject to talk about.
Yeah.
And a lot of them probably don't want to listen anyway.
But I think it's good to have that, or to establish that communication before having the baby and even after having the baby, just so you can understand each other a lot better because you're naturally going to be angry and snappy and upset.
You're losing sleep as well as
to be able to talk about that in a way where, you know, that person's going to know that you're not actually angry at them.
Yeah, I think men have to just kind of let it go over their heads a lot of the time. If we're, you know, in terms of it's not directed at them. Yeah. It's not their fault. They're just unfortunately in the firing line at the time. But again with my first, you know, when my daughter came along, my partner has already been through it with me once before. Yeah. So his experience again is just like my own. You feel like you're stepping into it with some knowledge of what to do. So I think his experience on that side of things, he kind of knew how to deal with my hormones better, and he would kind of go, well, if I do this, then that's one less thing that she has to think about. Yes. Whereas the first time around, they're probably not thinking like that. They're just ticking along in normal life.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of mental health and communication and that kind of thing, The next question that I asked the audience was, how have you or how do you intend to approach the topic of mental health with your child? And I put a few little kind of trigger points in this because I think that's a very big question. That's a very broad question. So I just put kind of smaller questions in with that, sort of to get you thinking, such as how do you wish your parents had approached it with you? Have you felt inspired by another family's approach? What have you found beneficial with your own mental health journey that you want to pass on to your child? Have you considered at what age you will be first raising the subject with your child? Do you plan to talk with them directly or show them through books and videos, that kind of thing? So lots to think about there.
Yeah.
Hopefully get the cogs turning. So somebody said, be very open. The wife and I will need to, as mental health is a huge part of our lives.
Okay.
And that was interesting coming from a male.
A male, yeah.
And I think it's nice actually that males have participated in this as well, because
100%.
Being that it's a parenthood survey, naturally I think it tends to be women that lean into these kind of things a lot more. And I do think it's nice to have a male perspective on things like this, and especially with mental health, because obviously suicide within men is a massive thing. And especially when you've had a baby and none of you are getting any sleep and that kind of thing, the whole thing just intensifies a hell of a lot more and becomes so much more difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
So being open and also having that openness with your child so that it's normal and the child doesn't feel like they need to hide anything or it's not normal to feel sad or anything. I think that's a really, really precious
100%.
gift.
Yeah, I think with men as well is that they're kind of forgotten about.
Yeah.
I mean, they say that, like, everyone, when you had a baby, everyone goes, how's the baby?
Yeah.
How's the baby? And no, I've heard this so many times, no one asks how's the mum.
Yeah.
Make sure you say how's the mum.
But nobody asks how's the dad.
Asks how's the dad. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
How's the father? They get forgot about because it's almost, and then within themselves, they must feel like, I can't voice how I feel about this because gosh, she's been through so much more.
Yeah.
I'm I don't deserve to voice my opinion, because then they might feel like it'll backfire and she'll go, well, what about me? What do you think I've been through? But actually, if you're in a good, strong relationship, being open is the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
Being open about how you feel, how it's affected you.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, because otherwise you just, And also, I think when you've got that fresh baby as well, that becomes the priority. And from a male perspective, they are in society expected to be the man of the house and the strong one, and and then a baby comes along and it's even more pressure to be the man of the house. So to then be the man of the house that feels a little bit emotional, that's not, society won't allow for that. It's so. Yeah, I think men definitely are forgotten about. Yeah. In it all.
I think so too. And it's sad, really.
It is. But being open is the best way. Open communication.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also your partner though. So, how they'll look after you. Like, so my partner was cooking the dinner every night, like looking after me in that respect. But it's good for me to go, how are you?
Yeah.
Are you all right? How are you? How are you feeling? Because it's new to them as just as much as it is to you.
Absolutely.
So, check in.
Check in, indeed. Someone else has said, mental health will always be an open topic with my son as long as he's ready to talk about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is nice. If you make it known that it's not embarrassing.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not
a taboo.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone has said, we always have open dialect about people having good and bad days in a simplistic way, and we always discuss feelings. So I suppose if you make it very normal around your child isn't going to think twice about being able to voice their feelings when the time comes for it.
Absolutely not. No, my son just the other day finished school and his teacher came out to me and said, we've had a bit of a sad moment today.
Oh.
So obviously my first thought is, okay, what have you felt sad about today? Oh, I didn't do great in my maths. And it's something as little as that in a classroom of kids that can make them feel out, different.
Yeah.
And it's just making sure you go, well, we talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that night we went home, we did some practice on it together, and you build on that, and then you go, look, just tell me if there's a problem. Communication is key. That's what it is. If you can have an open relationship with your child and make sure that you're communicating, how was your day today? Did you feel okay today? I mean, even now I know in his classroom he's got like and I've seen it before when I've been in and done like voluntary work at primary schools. They have feeling boards.
Oh wow!
Where there's different facial expressions, and you can go up and stick it on your tray. How you're feeling and things.
That's nice.
Yeah. So I think if families can incorporate that into the home as well, just visually help them. Because it's hard to talk to a 5-year-old about mental health.
Yeah.
It's like you're going back to what age do you
that's
bring
it.
it
And
up?
it's not necessarily talking directly about it, but just making even you and your partner talking about it so it's very normal.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what the next person has said. And they've put, at the moment, I try to lead by example so my daughter knows it's okay to have feelings.
Yeah.
And as she gets older, we'll make sure that usually difficult conversations are normalised.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, I think that's it. It's if you see your parents having feelings, you don't think twice about having feelings. I think in our house, we were very much like we don't have feelings in this house.
Okay.
And not necessarily to that extent where it was like embarrassing or shameful. It was just, I never saw my parents cry.
Yeah.
Whether they chose for that to happen or whether they were just very much more stable than I am,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, different worlds, different generations.
Yeah.
I think definitely, but there's always going to be some impact. But I grew up. My dad's very sensitive.
Yeah.
So I grew up. It wasn't weird for me if my dad got emotional.
Okay.
Because I'm not saying he cried every week, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like men don't cry.
Yeah.
He was emotional. My mum, I grew up, in a really open household. So I think naturally I then carry that on through my family. Yeah, I don't hide my feelings from the kids, definitely.
That's nice. It's nice for you to have experienced that as a child with your parents.
Yeah.
And I think that will make you want to then pass that down.
Yeah, well, that's it. You pass on your own experiences, don't you?
Yeah.
Build on them.
Yeah. So moving on from that, on a similar note, I then asked, what advice would you give to new or soon-to-be parents? And one of the points, as we mentioned earlier, I think we touched on this, don't take advice you've been given as gospel. Mm-hmm. Be prepared to make mistakes and learn as you go. And again, on a similar note, someone else said there's no right or wrong way to do things as long as your baby is happy and safe.
100%. That last one, yeah. There's no right or wrong way. As long as your child is happy and healthy, that's all that matters. And I think there's a lot of judgment passed around. It's even if no one's judging you, even just somebody looking at you as a new mum, you can be like, they're judging the way I'm handling the situation.
I feel like
and they're probably not.
Yeah.
But there's there's this pressure, and I think the best thing, and also don't read books. Just don't read any books. Because going back, don't take any written advice in books. Everyone's journey is different. Everyone's experience will be different, and as long as you're happy and your baby's happy and healthy, that's all that matters.
Yeah, and similarly, someone else said, learn from everyone around you, but do it your way. You'll know what to do. You've got it.
Instincts, massively. It's like, I've got friends that are like, oh, I'm not maternal. I won't be a good mum. I'm not very maternal. But no one's maternal until they've had a baby.
Yeah.
No, not really. I mean, you can be broody. You can be like, I definitely want to have children. But I think a lot of it comes with having a baby. It's like, nature's way. Mm-hmm. You have a baby and your instincts kick in.
Yeah. And someone else has said, never compare. All children develop at different stages. I learnt that after my first, and it's helped massively.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, every child is different, and they'll have their own stages. Yeah.
And I think it's not just about the environment that the child is in either. It's just children just develop faster than others.
Yeah.
They have different learning environments, different social environments.
Yeah, exactly.
Where they might thrive. And they might be born really interested in creative things and they will thrive in that way. Or they might actually be quite academic.
Yeah.
And it's so funny how I think children develop such a strong personality from a young age as well. You kind of don't realise.
No, there's that innocence. I think as well, if depends on your family situation, because if you're in a family that's got like a few children, your youngest is probably going to be a quicker developer than you know, 9 times out of 10 probably going to be,
they're watching everyone else do it.
They're wanting to be they want to catch up, they want to be in the midst of their elder siblings. That's what I found with mine anyway. But yeah, there's definitely it's about your environment, and each child is different, and the personality, like I love taking my son to school and watching the conversations they has with like his classmates. Like, I went on holiday this weekend. I got a new pair of shoes. There's that, like, innocence.
Yeah.
Imagine if we spoke like that now. It just wouldn't be... It'd be like, oh, okay. Boaster, show off. But when you're, like, 5...
But they're learning. They're testing the waters as to how far they can step before they upset someone.
Yeah, 100%.
Or how they make friends. It's all just a learning curve.
But their personality as well, like... That's another thing is, I think, when you become a new parent, your personality obviously changes. You're still you at the core of it all. But also when your child grows up and their personality develops, you start getting little bits of them in you and also seeing little bits of you in them.
That's so interesting.
Which I think is when you get something back. So having a baby, those first sort of few months, it can be quite tedious because you're not really getting anything back from them. But once they can sit up and they can babble and they flash a smile back at you, you can see yourself in them, and that's when motherhood really, parenthood really starts to
feel real.
Yeah. You're not just suddenly just keeping a little human alive. You're actually gaining something from that human as well.
Yeah. No, it is. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
It is. Someone else said, go easy on yourself, take time out for yourself, sleep at every opportunity, and seek help if you're feeling low.
Yes. Yeah.
Important.
Yeah. I mean, it's an age-old thing, though, that, like, sleep when the baby sleeps. I can't tell you how many times people told me that. But when you've got piles of washing to do, and, you've got housework to do, you've got your own things to do, or you feel that you need to get a workout in the living room while your baby's asleep or something, it's juggling the time, making sure that some days you might sleep when the baby sleeps, but other days you need to have a little bit of time for yourself, because that's how slowly you will get back to feeling a bit more you. Yeah.
On a similar note, someone said patience with yourself and also with your partner.
Yeah, so that's a good one. That's a good one. It's hard in the moment.
Yeah.
I think on reflection, you can think, I need to have more patience with myself next time, or I should have had more patience with myself. But in the moment when you're, running on an hour's sleep and you've got a pile of washing up to do, and also the washing, when you've got a newborn baby, they go through so many pieces of clothing every day. So yeah, it can all feel overwhelming, and that's right, you don't give yourself enough patience.
Yeah. Another one, someone said, try to laugh when things go wrong.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Try and stay positive.
Try and stay positive. Yeah, definitely.
I don't know how easy that is to do, because I'd probably be crying the whole time, I imagine.
Yeah, but again...
But it's important.
Yeah, and it goes back to, once your baby's flashing a smile back at you, it's a lot easier to be positive, because you have to be positive.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be looking them in the face miserable and then,
Yeah. And then just a couple of points that people have sent in. Parenthood is the greatest journey, and the cliche is very true. Everything changes.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably understatement of the year, really, because it's not even just your life, that's it's your appearance, how you view yourself, how you view your future plans in life, everything.
Everything. Yeah, you put your own life on hold to raise this human, and it's only when they get to a certain age and you start getting a little bit more independence and a little bit more independence, and they grow a bit more and you get a little bit and very slowly you get more and more of yourself back. Yeah, it's a journey.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful one. Yeah, I'm learning.
Yeah,
still learning.
And I think it must be very, very difficult, especially if you've only just kind of come to terms with your mental health, and like, okay, I now understand, you know, where I go in this like up and down roller coaster. I understand what I need to lift me up from my lows, and then all of this then kind of accelerates all of that, and suddenly you're back to square one again. It must be so difficult.
Well, you become trapped in your own brain, trapped in your own thoughts, and also you've got more time to think because you sat up half the night, and you just sat there like your brain's whirring away, and it's worrying about this and it's worrying about that, and just try and stay in the moment as much as you can, because it goes so fast as well. Flies by.
And someone else has said that, take each day as it comes and enjoy the time with your kids while they're still young.
100%.
And then one final point, I think this is important as well. I always said I wouldn't have kids until my mental health was in a good place. I want to break the cycle. And I don't know where this stems from, whether maybe they have come from an environment where they've been very well aware of bad mental health and they don't want to pass that on to the children, or whether they want to be stable but also kind of know that their child is going to be able to talk to them and it's going to be a normal thing, you know. That encompasses so much within that statement, but you can try and be as stable as you can, but it's also still important that your child knows that, you know, stability isn't everything. You can still have good days and bad days, but it's important that you are able to talk about it and able to deal with it and not feel embarrassed about it. Or if you need to cry, it's okay to cry, you know.
100%.
You can't judge people, or don't feel as though you're going to be judged. That's just how you cope with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's never a right time. That's the problem. There's never a right time. You could feel as stable and secure as possible, and suddenly it gets thrown because it's like everything changes. This big thing. There's never a right time. I know, but then you gain things. I think you gain, like, because suddenly you can't just be selfish. That you're having to prioritise other people. That you gain empathy and you gain sympathy, and so in a way you kind of better your mental health in some aspects.
I think it's all just a patience game, isn't it?
100%.
You'll learn to love yourself again. You'll learn to love the journey of it all again, and it's just being patient. It's riding the wave.
It's a journey. It's a journey. But then life is, you know, and I think whatever you're doing is unique to you. And you shouldn't. That's a big thing, is not comparing. Your situation to someone else's.
And that's very easily done. Very, very easily done.
In this day and age, especially.
So is there anything else that you want to touch upon before we wrap up, or do you feel like we've covered everything?
I feel like we've spoken about some good points, and people have sent in some really good points, and it's, I always used to say that if we lived in like a community, if women lived in a community, like life would be a lot easier because, you know, they can help each other. I mean, I know obviously the men suffer as well, which we've touched on, but I think if we all lived together, we can support each other. And I think that's the issue, isn't it, is that while the men go out to work, you're left at home with the baby. There's no groups, there's no community. It doesn't feel like there's a sense of community. Instead, you feel isolated, you feel lost. And that's, I think, unless you live in a city where there's things going on all the time, that it can be quite difficult to find that community. Especially now with the social media age, because we're all
connected constantly, and yet we're so much more disconnected than ever before, because you see all of the best bits of people's lives, but you don't really talk to anyone about it.
And yet now there's things people are putting out, aren't they, like videos of, or a picture of them like crying or something, and then suddenly that just gets judged. Like, why are you displaying your emotion on social media? You obviously want attention. And it's like, well, reach out to me. Like, I'm obviously I need help, like that's why I'm doing it. So
it's a tough one.
It is definitely. But no, it's exciting though. all these points about your mental health, you know, it's definitely, it's hard, but it's also a beautiful thing to be a parent. And you get to be a kid again. You know, you get to live through your child. Like Christmas is like the best thing ever suddenly, because you get that magic back. And so there's definitely good elements as well. It's not all doom and gloom.
Oh no, but thank you so much for joining me.
Oh no, thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been really fun.
Thank you
good
very
to
much.
talk.
Yes,
and thanks to everyone for sending in their like, feedback and questions. It's been good.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode, and thank you to Elsie for joining me. Whether you're a new parent, a soon-to-be parent, or a parent to many children, hopefully you found today's episode relatable and helpful. And I think the biggest takeaway point from today's discussion is that every scenario is different, and you must have patience and forgiveness with yourself. Parenthood is a very difficult thing for a lot of people, and a very different experience across the board. So it's important to have that understanding that what your mum and dad went through is very different than what you and your partner are going to go through, and what your parents' parents went through is different still. There's a lot of pressure that comes with it, but every journey is different. Thank you so much to everyone who participated in the polls and questions for this episode and all of the previous episodes. Your feedback really adds to the discussions, and it's also very reassuring to see other people going through the same experiences and having the same feelings. I look forward to sharing the next episode with you. Here is what's coming up next. In the next episode, we'll be touching on couples communication, and I'll be joined by my partner, Mason Burke. Together we'll be talking about the common obstacles that many couples face that cause friction in a relationship, and how best to communicate any difficulties that you're having, and also how best to listen to your partner when they are trying to communicate with you. Thank you so much once again for tuning in to another episode of the Calm Within the Storm podcast. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye!
Everything can change.